They told you that freedom is your birthright, that your thoughts are your own, that the choices you make each day come from you. But what if the story you've been given was never the truth? What if the reality you live in, the beliefs you hold, the desires you chase, even the doubts that haunt you, aren't yours at all, but carefully planted? The Gnostics, ancient seekers of hidden wisdom, spoke of powerful beings called Archons, not fallen angels and demons we read about in Scripture, but something far more insidious. They warned the Archons weave illusions so subtle, so seductive that you rarely even notice the trap closing around you until it is too late. And here's something they've kept from you for thousands of years, a secret so carefully buried that most will never find it. This prison has no bars, no walls, no chains. It's an invisible cage constructed inside your own mind, using your own power against you. The very ability you were given to shape reality has been hijacked, turned into the mechanism that keeps you trapped. For millennia, humanity has walked inside it, unaware, believing we are free, while our very thoughts are quietly harvested, redirected, and fed upon. The Gnostics warned us about this. They hid these teachings in fragments, scrolls, and secret initiations, waiting for the day when humanity's consciousness would finally rise, when a few would begin to remember what was once forgotten. But you are here right now. And that means you are not like the countless others still trapped in the illusion. You are part of a growing network of awakened souls, seekers who feel the quiet pull to know, to remember, to reclaim what was taken. Prepare yourself, because once you learn what the Archons truly are and the hidden forces behind their deception, you'll never see reality the same way again. And soon you'll discover the forgotten Gnostic method designed to break their hold on your mind. You're going to see why most people remain trapped in cycles of fear, distraction, and forgetfulness, and why you were never meant to live this way. Because once you understand how the Archons manipulate human perception, it won't just change how you see your thoughts, it could change the way you see reality itself. Long before modern religions shaped the story of creation, there were whispers of a deeper truth, a truth hidden, suppressed, and almost lost to time. Then in 1945, beneath the desert sands of Nag Hammadi, Egypt, a farmer stumbled upon a sealed clay jar. Inside, he found writings hidden for over 1,600 years. Among them were the Gnostic Gospels, texts that paint a very different picture of reality and of humanity's place within it. These writings unveiled a hidden cosmic war, not fought with armies or weapons, but with perception itself, a silent battle waged to sever humanity from source, to make us forget the divine spark we carry within. According to the Gnostics, the physical world you see around you was not created by the ultimate source, the true divine. Instead, it was hijacked by a lesser power, the demiurge, a false creator, a blind architect who believes himself to be God. The ancient Gnostics described a cosmic tragedy, one that began long before humanity's first breath. They said that Sophia, the embodiment of divine wisdom, acted without consent, creating a flawed being, Yaldabaoth, a lion-faced, serpent-bodied entity with eyes that flashed like lightning. In his ignorance, Yaldabaoth created 12 Archons aligned with the zodiac and 7 planetary rulers tied to the wandering stars. Beyond them, 365 Archons governed the days themselves, a vast cosmic machine designed to keep humanity trapped within cycles of time, illusion, and control. And these weren't just servants. They became his enforcers, the architects of deception, shaping the prison you now live within. But who or what are these beings? The word Archon comes from the Greek archon, meaning ruler or authority. Yet, the Gnostics didn't see them as noble kings or divine overseers, but as cosmic parasites, beings that exist just beyond the veil of human perception, feeding on distortion, confusion, and fear. And their influence runs deeper than most could imagine. They are the architects of distraction, the masters of manipulation. They can't create, but they imitate. They can't awaken, but they distort. To the Gnostics, these forces weren't metaphorical. They were very real, and they understood something shocking. The Archons don't need to control the world around you if they can control the world within you. Every intrusive thought, every irrational fear, every false desire whispered into your consciousness, what if some of them were never yours? This knowledge was considered dangerous, even heretical by early Orthodox authorities. Entire libraries were burned. Teachers were silenced. And yet, Fragments of these teachings survived, preserved beneath centuries of religious dogma and cultural conditioning. Why? Because to understand the Archons is to understand how reality itself has been bent. It is to realize that much of what we call normal, the endless chase for status, the systems designed to keep us busy, distracted, and divided, might not be natural at all, but engineered. The Gnostics believe that deep within every human lies a divine spark, a fragment of the true source, and that the Archons cannot touch it. But here's the catch. If they can keep you asleep endlessly chasing illusions, if they can make you forget who you are, if they can convince you that your thoughts are your own, then they don't need chains. Your mind becomes the prison. And this is why the Gnostics hid this knowledge for so long. Not to control you, but to set you free. Because they knew that if enough people remembered, the game ends. If the Gnostics were right, the Archons don't control you by force. They don't need weapons. They don't need armies. They control you through thought. And here's the unsettling truth. When a prison is invisible, the prisoners rarely even know they're trapped. The Archons understood something about the human mind thousands of years ago, something modern neuroscience is only beginning to confirm. Your perception shapes your reality. Change the lens and you change the world you see. So, how do they hijack that lens? How do they insert their influence into your consciousness without you even noticing? The Gnostics described it as a kind of psychic interference, an energetic distortion in the very field of awareness. Imagine standing in a vast silent library when suddenly a faint whisper brushes past your ear. At first, you think it's your thought, but it isn't. That's how the Archons work. They mimic your inner voice. One moment you're feeling grounded. The next a wave of self-doubt crashes in. You'll never succeed. You're not good enough. There's no point in trying. Do those thoughts come from you or were they planted? This is where it gets deeper. The Archons operate through frequencies of fear, emotional signatures that lower your vibration and make you easier to influence. Anger, envy, guilt, shame. The more time you spend trapped in these states, the more open doors you leave in your consciousness. But it doesn't stop there. The Gnostics believe the Archons also manipulate the collective mind, shaping culture, systems, and beliefs so subtly that you think you're choosing freely while walking exactly where they want you to go. Why do so many people endlessly chase things that never bring fulfillment? Why do billions consume, compete, and compare, believing happiness is out there, always just one purchase, one achievement, one relationship away? What if that hunger isn't natural, but programmed? The Archons learned that the most powerful way to control a species is simple. Keep them distracted. Distracted by endless noise. Distracted by manufactured conflict. Distracted by desires that never end or are never fulfilled. Because if your attention is scattered, if you're always chasing the next thing, if you're exhausted, divided, and overstimulated, then you're easy to guide and easier to feed upon. This is why the Gnostics describe the Archons as energetic parasites. They don't just manipulate thought, they harvest energy. When you spiral into fear, shame, or anger, you're radiating the exact frequency they consume. And here's the trap within the trap. They want you to fight shadows while never questioning the prison itself. They want you fighting over politics, identities, possessions, race, anything that keeps you from turning inward and remembering who you truly are. Because the moment you remember, the game begins to break. Your awareness is the key they can't touch. The divine spark within you, that fragment of source, is beyond their reach. But if they can convince you it isn't there, you'll never use it. This is why the Archons don't just attack your thoughts. They attack your very sense of self. They keep you doubting, comparing, striving, scrolling, seeking, always looking outward, never inward, where true divinity lies. The Gnostics knew when humanity finally realizes its true power, the spell weakens. And this is exactly what the Archons fear most. But knowing how they work is only the beginning. The real question is, how do you break free? How do you reclaim your thoughts, your energy, and your sovereignty? For that, we must delve deeper into the hidden mechanics of human consciousness and the ancient Gnostic method designed to rise above the Archons' grip, their entire system of control. Because once you see it, you can't unsee it. What if the Archons' influence goes deeper than just thoughts and emotions? What if they're shaping the entire reality around you without you ever realizing it? The Gnostics believe that the Archons operate not only within the human psyche, but within the fabric of time itself. They bend narratives, create false patterns, and keep humanity locked into cycles of repetition, looping events that appear random but are carefully engineered. Ever notice how history repeats? How entire civilizations rise and fall, but the same mistakes, the same divisions, the same distractions keep returning, just wearing different masks. The Gnostics would say this isn't an accident. It's by design. Think of it like this. You're inside a cosmic labyrinth. The walls are invisible, but the paths you walk, the choices, the trends, the collective movements of humanity are subtly influenced. Every major societal shift, every cultural obsession, every mass fear spiral, they all create emotional waves. And those waves are energy. Energy the Gnostics believe the Archons feed on. But here's the more disturbing part. The Archons aren't just satisfied with shaping external events. They infiltrate spiritual teachings themselves. Over thousands of years, fragments of truth have been deliberately distorted, ancient texts rewritten, symbols inverted, and mystical practices co-opted and hollowed out until only shadows remain. Why? Because the Archons understand something most don't. The fastest way to keep you asleep is to give you the illusion that you're waking up. For every genuine teaching about awakening, there are countless diluted, corrupted versions, spiritual fast food, entire movements built on half-truths designed to lead seekers into dead ends and closed loops. Follow this teacher, by this ritual, manifest this desire, chant this mantra. But whatever you do, don't look within. Don't connect directly to the divine spark inside you. That's the one thing they can't control. And so, humanity stays busy, always looking outside themselves, always chasing, always searching, but never turning within. The Gnostics warned about this over 1500 years ago. In the Apocryphon of John, one of the texts discovered at Nag Hammadi, the Archons are described as masters of illusion, beings who create appearances to keep humanity in ignorance. They weave illusions of separation, scarcity, and fear, knowing that as long as we believe we're powerless, we become powerless. And yet there's a paradox. The Archons cannot create. They can influence, but they cannot originate. They can deceive, but they cannot birth truth. Their entire power depends on your agreement, your unconscious consent to the stories you've been told. Break the story and you begin to break the spell. But this isn't just about personal freedom. It's bigger than that. Because when enough individuals see the illusion, the collective timeline begins to shift. New possibilities emerge. Hidden potentials surface. And this is what the Archons fear most, that humanity will realize it has the power to choose a different reality. So according to the Gnostics, the Archons double down. More noise, more division, more distraction designed to keep you busy fighting battles that don't matter. Because the more light that floods the planet, the harder they fight to keep control. Deep down, you've always sensed there was more, that there's a reason you never quite fit into the stories you were given. That strange pull inside you, the one that whispers, something isn't right, is your signal. But knowing the game exists isn't enough. You need to understand how to step outside of it. The Gnostics left behind a map, a forgotten method for reclaiming your mind, protecting your energy, and reconnecting with the source that the Archons cannot touch. And once you learn it, everything changes. Seeing the trap and understanding the game is just the beginning. To break free from the Archons, the Gnostics taught, you must remember who you are and withdraw your energy from the illusions designed to keep you asleep. This isn't about fighting them. It's about seeing them. Because once you see the bars of the invisible prison, they immediately begin to dissolve. The Archons' greatest weapon is invisibility. Their whispers become your thoughts. Their desires become your goals. But here's the paradox. The moment you see the pattern, you weaken its power. Right now, pause for a moment. Take a breath, close your eyes, and simply notice the next thought that enters your mind. Don't judge it. Don't follow it. Just observe it. Where did it come from? Did you create it, or did it arrive uninvited from somewhere else? This practice, the Gnostics called it gnosis, direct knowing, is about stepping back from the noise and watching the game being played inside your own mind. Every time you notice a false thought, you reclaim energy that would have been harvested. The Archons thrive on low-frequency states: fear, shame, anger, jealousy. These are the feeding grounds of the invisible prison. To break free, you must starve them. When you feel pulled into fear or frustration, pause and return to the present moment. Place your hand on your heart and take 3 slow, deliberate breaths. With each breath, imagine drawing your energy back to you, cutting the cords that were draining you. The Gnostics believed your energy is sacred. Every time you reclaim it, you shift from being food for the Archons to becoming untouchable. Deep within you lies something they cannot reach, your divine spark, a fragment of the true source. The Archons cannot touch it, but they can distract you from it. To awaken this spark, the Gnostics practiced remembrance, an inner turning back to source. For you, this can be as simple as pausing in silence each day and placing your awareness behind your thoughts. Not in the past, not in the future, but here. In this stillness, the illusions begin to dissolve and you reconnect with the part of you that has always been free. Here's the deepest secret. The Archons don't control reality. They control your attention. And where your attention goes, your reality flows. The real power is within you. If they can keep you hooked on chaos, negativity, and fear, you unconsciously choose their timeline. But the moment you consciously redirect your focus to what uplifts, nourishes, and awakens you, you begin stepping onto an entirely different path. Every thought you choose, every belief you question, every moment of stillness is an act of rebellion, a quiet revolution. And maybe that's why you're here right now. Not by accident, not by coincidence. Something in you is remembering. And when enough of us remember, the invisible prison begins to crumble. Hidden in scrolls, symbols, and whispers, the Gnostics left warnings. The Archons don't rule you with chains. They rule you with forgetfulness, with the stories you were given, with the thoughts you never questioned. But today something shifted because you've seen the game. The invisible prison only works if you believe in it. And every moment you return to your awareness, every time you pause and question the voice in your head, every time you reclaim your energy from fear, chaos, and distraction, a bar of that prison dissolves. And maybe this is why you found this message. Not by chance, not by accident, because something deep within you, older than time, older than your name, older than this lifetime, has been waiting to remember. The Gnostics believed that when enough sparks awaken, the Archons lose their power. The false systems collapse and the veil lifts. And perhaps that's the deeper reason you're here. Not just to learn these secrets, but to become the living proof of them. So ask yourself, if every thought isn't truly yours, then who are you beneath the noise? Because once you begin remembering, once you step beyond the illusions, the real journey begins. What makes the Gnostic understanding of Archons particularly relevant today is how precisely it describes modern mechanisms of control that operate through technology, media, and cultural programming. The Archons don't need to be literal beings to function as the Gnostics described. They can be understood as patterns, as emergent properties of systems designed to capture and redirect human attention and energy. Social media algorithms that learn your triggers and feed you content designed to provoke reaction. Advertising that creates artificial needs, news cycles that keep you in perpetual anxiety, these all function exactly as the Gnostics described archonic influence. Invisible forces that harvest your emotional energy by keeping you in reactive states. The Gnostic emphasis on gnosis, direct knowing, offers a counterpoint to both blind faith and materialist skepticism. It suggests that truth isn't found through believing what authorities tell you or through rejecting everything supernatural, but through direct experience of your own consciousness. When you sit in stillness and observe your thoughts without identifying with them, you begin to notice something remarkable. Thoughts arise on their own. You don't create most of them. They appear, often uninvited, and if you don't grasp onto them, they dissolve. This observation, repeated consistently, reveals that you are not your thoughts. You are the awareness in which thoughts appear. This distinction matters profoundly because the archonic system depends on your identification with thought. If you believe you are your thoughts, then controlling your thoughts controls you. But if you recognize yourself as the awareness observing thoughts, you've stepped outside the system. You can watch fear arise without becoming fearful. You can notice desire without being driven by it. You can observe anger without acting from it. This is the freedom the Gnostics pointed toward. Not freedom from having thoughts or emotions, but freedom from being enslaved by them. The concept of the divine spark addresses something essential about human nature that materialist frameworks struggle to explain. the persistent intuition that we are something beyond our physical bodies and conditioned minds. Whether you interpret this spark as literal divine essence or as metaphor for consciousness itself, the practical implications remain the same. There is something in you that transcends your conditioning, your past, your cultural programming. Accessing that something requires moving beyond the stories you've been told about who you are and directly experiencing the awareness that exists prior to all stories. The Gnostic warning about corrupted spiritual teachings resonates powerfully in an era where spirituality has become commodified. The market overflows with quick-fix enlightenment, manifestation techniques that promise wealth without transformation, and teachings that comfort rather than challenge. The archonic principle suggests that anything keeping you focused outward, seeking fulfillment through external acquisition or validation, serves the system regardless of whether it wears religious, spiritual, or secular clothing. The genuine path always points inward, toward the direct experience of consciousness itself, which cannot be bought, sold, or mediated by any external authority.